Welcome to the After Work Hangout, the podcast where you'll hear why and how everyday people shifted their careers to meet their personal needs. I'm your host, Crystal Lee. In Season 1, we explored topics related to work and money. And now in Season 2, new guests join me to chat about work and health. From practical tips to heartfelt stories, we hope you'll get inspired and make the moves that are right for you. Welcome, Lee. So happy to have you on the After Work Hangout for our Season 2 topic of work and health. Because for the folks who are listening, Lee Sue is a licensed benefits broker. So we're really going to dig into all things related to employee benefits, health benefits, and I'm definitely not an expert and I have so many questions for you, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so I know you've been doing this work for quite a while, and in our conversations, like I've known you for a few years now. Actually, if it's okay, I want to share, I often talk about how we met and became friends because it's such a great story. we were in touch more in a remote capacity for communications, but even in our little chit-chatting before meetings, I was like, oh, I feel like we have some common interests. I really want to get to know you. And I asked you to do like a virtual coffee chat, and then we really did have a lot in common, like our love for gardening and things like that. And and you were so kind to share tips for both gardening and other things. And over the years, we've become just genuine friends.
Yes, for sure. It's been a great relationship.
Yeah. And so I really appreciate your expertise in all things related to benefits, but was this always an area that you had focused on, or how did you land on this as your specialty?
So I actually started my career in human resources. So went to university, had a business degree majoring in human resources. And I think I'm probably one of the very few people who actually major in HR and actually worked in the HR field. So when I first started out in the HR field, it just ended up that my colleagues, they prefer other portfolios in HR. And so benefits was the one that was kind of like left open. And I was like, I'll take it, right? And I truly just loved it. And so even though I've always been in HR, worked in HR capacity, my biggest portfolio has always been benefits, and I love it.
What do you enjoy about it that had you raise your hand and get excited?
Yeah, I think the benefits, it's one of the portfolio in HR where employees truly do benefit from it if they understand what is covered, what is offered to them, if they appreciate what the employer is providing them. And the other part of it that I really enjoy is I love analyzing the plan and seeing what employees use and appreciate versus what they don't like in the plan, because we can always kind of make up the plan so that it is cost effective for the employer, and yet it's a benefit to the employees.
That's actually a really great segue, because when we think about benefits, people think about like dental, massages, some of the more common ones, but
exactly.
Would you mind sharing maybe from your side, like what have you seen? What can be a part of the benefits package?
Yes. And I think, a lot of people, when they think about benefits, they think about exactly the extended health and dental. I guess from an HR perspective, I always think of benefit as part of the employment package, right? That is only one of the items that is a benefit to the employee. And then the other part of it is, there's more than just extended health and dental. There's, the life insurance, there's the disability, there's the critical illness. What's very popular now is the healthcare spending account, which is more flexible for the employee. So there's many ways that you can package the plan. And I think the employees, if they understand what is being offered, then they can use it to help them, to help their health and wellness. Right. And that's really, truly what we want.
Right. Okay. I feel like I am just so foreign to these different components. And could you explain it to us like we're 2-year-olds? Because you mentioned a few different ones, right? Accidental, life insurance. Can you explain each of those?
Yes.
And
you bet.
Yeah, would love to hear.
Yeah. So life insurance is obviously usually it's a lump sum payment that's paid to the beneficiary if something happens to the employee, right? Then there's the accidental death and dismemberment if they have an accident. So for instance, they lost a limb or something like that. There is different payment depending on which part of the body was the accident on. And then there's critical illness. So critical illness is if an employee is diagnosed with a certain illness. And depending on the coverage, it could be 3, 4 illnesses or up to even 28 illnesses. So it really depends on the plan. Then there's the disability. So there's the short-term disability. So for employees who are off work due to some sort of disability, whether it be mental or physical. Then there's the long-term disability, which goes a little bit longer. Some plans will cover the employees for a certain number of years. Other plans will cover them up to age 65. Then, of course, there's the extended health, which, covers like paramedical services like massage, chiropractor. There's vision coverage. There's prescription drug coverage. Those are kind of like the main ones.
Yeah. So just listening to how you've described all these different categories of benefits, I am imagining when, let's say, hooray, you found a job, and there's that, of course, salary, that base salary. But then there's also these considerations of when it comes to these benefits, there are details of what exactly would the amounts be, or, criteria and things like that. So what tips do you have for someone who maybe are in that stage where they are negotiating an offer? How is that a good time to ask more about it?
Yes. And I think, like I mentioned, benefit is only one component of the total compensation package, right? So I think a lot of the time employees don't think about it, right? It's one of those things that are out of sight, out of mind, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not disabled right now, for instance, then you don't think about disability coverage, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't want to think about these things.
Exactly, right? But these are all benefits that are there for the employee to access when they need it. So it's always good for them to at least have a basic knowledge of what is covered, because depending on how old they are or at what life stage they are at, certain benefits will be, they will value certain benefits more than others.
Could you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, for instance, a young individual might not think about prescription drug, right? Whereas a family might value that more because, they have children that may need some prescription, right? Someone who's a little bit older, for instance, might appreciate going for a massage more so than a young individual who has no soreness in their body whatsoever, right? So that's kind of like the different stages in terms of the benefits coverage. And that's why it's so important for employers to be working with an individual who understands that, because that's how they can package the benefits plan to suit what it is that the employer is providing the employee.
Right. Of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And is it okay for a job seeker or candidate to ask these questions before signing? When do you think is the best time to have these conversations? Or is it during the interview phase? What are your thoughts?
I think, from an HR perspective, I always think, once the offer is out there for you, that's when you should be considering everything before you accept or decline an offer. And that's a good time for you to be looking at what are the salary, what are the benefits, what are, whatever else that the employer is offering, right? And at that point, again, some employees, depending on the stage of their life, may want to work with an employer who provides more disability coverage versus another, for instance, right? And I think that's the right time to be asking what kind of coverage, because the employers know that. They always have like a benefit summary that they can provide potential employees. So they know what is covered. What is the waiting period? That's very important. I think a lot of the time employees don't realize they can negotiate that, right? As a waiting period. A lot of the plans have a minimum of 3 months, 6 months coverage, waiting period. But, if you are an potential employee with specialized skills, the employer may say, you know what, we'll waive that benefits and you start from day one.
Right.
If that's important enough to you.
Right.
So those are all questions that potential employees can ask.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's important to also look at what's covered versus, say, a health spending account, which is much more flexible, right? Maybe you can buy
That's correct.
fitness gear or see a personal trainer, gym membership. It's a lot more flexible. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Because the healthcare spending account, there's two components to that. So the healthcare spending account, there's a healthcare component and then there's the wellness component. So the healthcare component is any medical expenses that person can deduct through CRA is covered under the healthcare spending account. Then there's the wellness component, which is a taxable benefit to the employee, which is really the employer can set up what it is they will allow the employee to reimburse. And that could be a wide range of things, including, like you mentioned, a gym membership, a bus pass, a bicycle. It can be a whole number of things. And again, that's what the employer can work with the broker to kind of discuss all of that and to see what would work best for their workforce.
Yeah. And I imagine it's knowledge is power. So as an employee, you should know these things so you don't leave money on the table, right? Use
That's
it.
Right.
It's a benefit.
Exactly.
It might expire at the end of the year. You want to be able to track that and use what you have.
Yeah. And I think the important thing for employees to know is, when they sign on the benefits, they have their own personal portal that they have access to. That personal portal keeps track of everything that they've sent. So, when you mention about, keeping track of what they've used, they don't have to remember that. It's all in the claiming portal because it will show them how much left they have, right? And again, benefits are there for them to use should they need it and to help them maintain their health, because that's what employers want. A healthy employee to be coming to work.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said earlier, for employers, they're already paying for it. So it's an investment that they've already put out there.
Exactly.
And I would say so much of this has to do with the workplace culture that employers are trying to establish, right?
Correct.
Like you said, they want to be employers who value your health and wellness, that they care about you. They want you to do well long term and stick with them.
For sure. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious. You talked about the insurance portal. So there's a bit of, just setting up your password and log in. It's not that hard, but remember to do it, everyone.
Yes.
Don't ignore those emails and paperwork.
Yeah.
Sometimes the paperwork is just a necessary part of the process.
That's correct.
Is there any additional paperwork that folks should be mindful of? Is it first day that they should be signing some things? And if they aren't being asked, they should talk to the employer. Do you have tips?
Yes. So the most important thing is the enrollment form. So, a lot of the insurance carrier now do online enrollment. So like you said, they'll send you an email and then you go in and you enroll yourself and you complete all your personal information. And I have to say, one of the most important things for an employee to do is obviously sign up for the benefits, even if they don't use it, right? Secondly is to designate a beneficiary. That is so, so important. I've had a situation where someone doesn't designate a beneficiary and something happens. Well, the insurance carrier will only, abide by what the employee had done, right? And it's too late at that point to ask the employee, who did you want as a beneficiary, right? So I think that is so important that employee designates a beneficiary.
I'm curious, does it go to the estate or anything?
Yes,
Okay.
it does go to the
It
state, and then
holds up everything as well.
exactly, because there's that potential for it going to probate,
Yeah.
and that takes a long time, right? And whereas if an employee designates a beneficiary, the payment can be paid out within a week.
Yeah. And
Two.
oh wow, 1 week. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
honestly a time when you really need those resources because it's such a
for sure.
challenging time, right? Having that
Yeah.
financial buffer is so helpful. And another piece would probably be to update the beneficiaries as things change in your life. Is that something that
Correct.
can be easily done?
Yes. So beneficiaries can be changed at any time. The employee can change it at any time. So the other, the most important thing too for employees is to change and update their dependents as appropriate. So, they have a new baby. If they don't add that new baby until the baby is 5 years old, well, there will be some coverage that the baby would have forgone, right? So it's very important. I would say, sign on to the benefits plan. Make sure you designate a beneficiary that you want the funds to go to. Make sure that you have the correct dependents that should be enrolled in the plan with you, and to update that as appropriate.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And again, everyone, it's paperwork. It's not always the funnest thing, but it doesn't take very long and it's so important. So just
For sure.
designate like 15 minutes towards it. Yeah, and do you have you've been in this business for quite a while and you've seen it like within organizations as an external person supporting employers. Have you seen any scenarios where you feel like, had they done this or had they known this whole situation could have been avoided or would be much easier? So basically any lessons learned that you feel like would be helpful for anyone listening?
Yes. So I think I mentioned the beneficiary situation. I've also had a situation where someone got married, and did not add the spouse, right? So in the insurance world, in the benefits world, you have a certain amount of time to make changes to your plan to add your dependent when they become eligible. So for instance, adding a spouse or adding a child, you have 30 days. And if you don't do that in the appropriate time, the insurance carrier will limit the benefit that that dependent is eligible for. So in this situation, the spouse and I can't remember if it was the son or the daughter was added, but it was the insurance carrier considered them to be late applicants. And in the insurance world, late applicant, that's not a good thing.
Oh, what happens?
So in this situation, a few things can happen. One would be the insurance carrier could potentially back charge the premiums that, the eligible dependent should have been on. The other thing is certain benefits will be capped. So for instance, let's say if your dental coverage covers you $2,000 every 12 months, in this case, they capped it where it's only $500 that will be provided for these dependent for this year. Then next year they start over. So there's certain things, and those are all very important for the employees to understand that there is a time limit to everything, right? And it's good to make sure that the plan administrator or the business owner who's doing the plan administration, or the advisor, to know of these information in a timely manner, so that you don't get, penalized for it, right? Penalized for being late.
I also feel like when I start a new job, especially if it's a larger organization, it takes me a little while to know who's who and who's in charge of what. And even on the people team, there could be quite a few people. So just get to know your people team and who's in charge of the benefits administration and payroll and things like that. So you know who's the go-to person that you can talk to if you have questions.
Yes, exactly. And I think, I mentioned about the employees logging on to their own portal. In the portal there too, there's also a help button that they can ask questions. For instance, I just got married. Should I add my dependent? How long do I have to add my dependent? Those are all questions that the insurance carrier would respond to. in the portal.
Right. Okay, that's a really good tip. And we know been talking about getting married, but even common law spouse, and
Correct.
that definition also can vary by geographical region, I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, just all these little details and nuances. Don't be shy about asking.
For sure. Yeah.
So, Lee, we had talked about several different types of insurance, and I'm curious if you also touch on travel insurance.
Yes. So for an employee benefits plan, travel insurance is included in the plan. And I think that's one of the benefits plan that a lot of employees don't really think about it until they have travel. And if something happens, that's when they truly think about it. So I think it's important for employees to know what is covered and, without getting into it too deeply, but understanding about pre-existing conditions prior to them traveling. Because, people hear in the news and, this always makes big news when the insurance carrier denies a claim, right? But what they don't understand is what was the reason for that. And if you read deeply into the story and if you try and, see exactly what happened, a lot of the time it is because the employee already had a pre-existing condition that was not stabilized prior to them traveling. And then something happens while they're traveling. Then they submit a claim. Then the insurance carrier is saying, no, you knew about this situation, so you took that risk traveling, right? So I think that's very important for employees to understand that and to ask those questions, especially if they have a pre-existing medical condition. It's fine if you have you are completely healthy, you have no issue, you're not taking any prescription or anything like that. But if you are taking some prescription for certain conditions, you need to understand that before you travel.
Okay, so this is really interesting because I imagine, I don't necessarily want my employer to know what I'm taking and all of that. So are you saying that if I'm planning a trip, I should be getting in touch with the insurance provider and talking to them? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can. There is a number that they can contact the carrier in terms of asking the question, right? If they have some pre-existing. I think the other thing, I guess what I'm trying to say is the employees should understand about their conditions being stable before they actually travel.
Okay.
Right? Because that's where they come into problems when a claim is submitted. Is the carrier will look to see. So I'll give you an example. Maybe it'll make it easier to understand.
Thank
right?
you.
You have a heart condition, right? Your doctor diagnosed you with a heart condition, but your doctor is saying, oh, you're good now. You can travel. So then you travel, right? But then something happens during your travel that's related to your heart condition. So the insurance carrier is going to look at the medical and go, your doctor said you had a heart condition, and that was 2 months ago before you travel. Well, in the travel insurance wording, if you read it, a lot of it has a stability period where you have to be stable at least 3 months or 6 months prior to travel. So then you submit a claim. Well, then the insurance carrier is saying, no, you did not meet the stability period.
I see.
Right? Your condition was not stable, according to them. Even though your doctor said you're fine to travel. Those are two different conditions, right? Okay. So I think that's where employees may get in trouble.
Right.
Is they think, well, my doctor said I was okay to travel.
Yeah.
Right? And the doctor is saying you're okay to travel because you're not sick right now, right?
Yeah.
But from the insurance carrier, your condition is not stable.
Yeah. It's kind of like counting more from an event and then the time period, making sure you know what that is.
Exactly.
So again, it's back to knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're able to make informed decisions.
Exactly.
Make the best choices for yourself. Okay,
yes.
No, that's such a great example. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add there?
I think, with the travel insurance, with everyone wanting to travel, that is very important for employees to just understand. And I'm not expecting employees to know every detail of the policy, right? But if you have any question, like you said, knowledge is power, right? ask the question. You don't need to tell your employee that, I'm taking this medication, I'm taking that medication. You don't need to do that, but you can certainly ask the question that, if I have a pre-existing condition, what do you suggest?
Right.
And then you can make an informed decision based on that.
Yeah. Good tip. Okay, so another question I thought of is, let's say I do have a spouse and we both have health insurance. We work for different employers, so the providers are different and we need to coordinate. Do you have tips for like coordinating benefits?
Yes, and that is such a great thing to have if you and your spouse have benefits, right? And it doesn't matter that it's with a different insurance carrier. All the insurance carrier, they coordinate the benefits. So what that means is if you have a claim for yourself, you would submit it through your insurance carrier. Then the insurance carrier will pay, let's say, 80% of your claim. Then you would submit the remainder 20% that's not covered to your spouse's plan. And then the insurance carrier over there will pay the 20%. So in essence, you had 100% reimbursed.
Woohoo!
Right?
Who wouldn't want 100%?
Exactly.
So don't leave money on the table. Make sure you go for both sides.
Yeah. So just to clarify, from the insurance perspective, if you have a plan, you need to submit it to your plan first.
Got it.
Then you can coordinate through your spouse's plan. And if it's a child, they would submit to the parent's plan with the birthday month first in the year. So let's say if you and I are spouses, your birthday is July and my birthday is May, you would submit through, the kid's benefit would be submitted through my plan first.
Oh, okay. That part I did not realize. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So good clarifications. Submit it to your own first, and for your children, dependents, whoever's birthday month happens first in the calendar year.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So there are little rules to follow. Okay. We talked a lot about employers providing benefits, and the last 2 seasons I've actually spoken with guests who work for themselves, transition to self-employment. What options do self-employed folks have when it comes to health insurance? And is that common from your perspective for folks to be purchasing their own health insurance?
Yes. So I guess it depends for the self-employed person whether they are incorporated or they are a solo entrepreneur. So if they are a solo entrepreneur, then they can buy an individual plan for them and their family. If they have an incorporated company, then they can actually have a healthcare spending account and have everything written off through their business. So the beauty of the healthcare spending account for an incorporated person is that they are, in essence, the company and the employee of the company. So they represent 2 people, right? But as the employee, they don't get taxed on the plan. It's tax-free. And the company gets to write off the benefits as part of their expenses.
Okay. So that's where talking to someone like you would be helpful, because you can help guide them through these different options.
Correct. Correct.
And I feel like over the years, I've also seen, say, whether it's a professional organization that they might belong to or local chamber of commerce, they might also have some possible entry points to access health benefits.
That's correct. So I guess the thing to understand is in every association, there may be benefits that are covered through the association. So it's something to really kind of dive into and try to understand. An association plan is different than an individual plan. Association plans are, you and I belong to an association. We all belong to one plan, right? Then plans are always based on claims experience, what I explain as how much do you use the plan. In the simplest explanation, let's just say you and I belong to a plan, right? And I go and I spend $1,000 and you go and you spend $100. Well, that's $1,100 that we spent. But we only pay premiums, let's say $200. Well, guess what? The insurance carrier is going to want an increase in the plan. But because I'm the high user, I'm still getting the same increase as you.
Right.
So in essence, you're subsidizing me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the simplest term. Obviously, there's more to it than that, right? So you have to think, kind of understand an association plan versus, let's say, just your plan. So in that case, let's say you went and you got your own plan. Well, you might not get that huge an increase because you only spent $100.
Right.
And you paid claims $200, right? You actually spent more than what you paid, right? So there's ups and downs in that also.
Yeah, I can see, Lee, your analytical brain happening, like the gears are going, and you really know how to think about these things because there are actual numbers behind all of this. It's a people related role, but there are actual lots of numbers. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So you've been working in this area for such a long time, working with all types of organizations, from small, medium companies to much larger ones, I believe.
Yes.
Now, for you, at this point in your life, how are you taking care of yourself and like staying energized and recharging outside of work?
Yes. I think it's, it's good to have a community, right? A community of friends who have similar interest and are in the same similar profession. So for instance, for myself, I've always worked in HR. In HR, you hear things that you can never ever repeat to anyone other than another HR professional. So I have a great network of HR professionals out there that, we can complain about things that we can never, ever tell anybody else, right? Mm-hmm. That's the same with benefits. We hear situations that we just, are not able to share with just anybody, but we can share amongst ourselves because we all have the same pain. We go through the same pain, right? Uh-huh. And then there are also friends who are, who are maybe not in the same profession as you, but they understand, that they go through different things and I go through different things and you share that. So I think, building a community is very important and having people who have similar interest and similar mindset is very important. Mm-hmm. And I think I have a great community of that. So I love that. I'm talking to you here, right? I'm learning from you as much as you're learning from me. And that's what that's all about.
Yeah, I love this theme. And it's a big part of the work I do and I stand for. And I think for a lot of my guests, that's probably why you all agreed to be on my podcast, because we are all community-minded folks. And I think this podcast itself, like we're having this conversation, but after this is published and out there, anyone can learn from this conversation, right? And there's so much knowledge sharing that can happen when we include different perspectives. And
for sure,
I love that you have it both professionally and personally, because you're right. Yes. Like you do encounter very specific situations in your profession. So sometimes you do need that space to connect with others who can relate and understand.
For sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And anything like for your physical health, I believe you're a big walker.
Yes. Right? I love walking. I love hiking. And I love it even more when I'm doing it with a friend. As you and I have both experienced that. And we can chat about anything and everything. And we can solve the world during our walks. And so that's my kind of outdoor sports. I love gardening, as you mentioned. You and I have that in common. And I've actually recently really loved doing puzzles.
Oh, okay. What's
calms me down?
Calms you down. Okay, because I imagine sometimes, like for some folks, it's like mentally stimulating, but for you, it's like really calming.
Yes, it calms me down, and it just it's kind of an indoor activity that I can just relax and appreciate and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really lovely. And maybe I'll end with this. This podcast, we do try to inspire folks who are considering a career transition, perhaps, or sometimes even tied with other life transitions. And at the end of the day, it can be quite scary and nerve-wracking and overwhelming. Do you have any tips for folks if they are at this point of transitioning, considering it, but feeling maybe a little nervous or scared? You've seen so many folks over the years go through transitions. So what's your advice?
Yes, I think, when we're experiencing, and this includes myself, when we're experiencing something, we think we're the only one who's experiencing it. But there are friends out there, there are colleagues out there that are experiencing the same thing as we are. And I think it's just a matter of reaching out to those people and talking about it, because that's where the community comes in. The problem that you have seems smaller when somebody else shares that same problem versus just yourself, right? And I think it's just really finding that group, finding, what I call finding my jam, I guess, and having the conversation. And I think there's lots of support out there that you may not even know exist. But if you're open to talking about it and to reaching out and asking for help, you can find someone who will be able to help you.
Oh, that's lovely. And if folks are interested in connecting with you, how can they find you? Because maybe they have questions about some of the things we discussed today.
Yeah. So I have a website. I'm on LinkedIn. I am, on Facebook and phone number, email. Yeah. I guess my contact information is...
Yeah, I will be linking to your website for sure from the show notes. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate your time today and all your wisdom that you've accumulated over the years and so generously shared.
Appreciate you including me in this podcast.
Thanks for listening to the After Work Hangout. If you enjoy honest conversations about career decisions and life choices, remember to subscribe to the After Work Hangout so you'll know when our next episode drops. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating while you're at it. You can find a summary of this episode along with more information about our guests and resources that were mentioned at relocal.ca. That's RELOCAL.ca. If you take a look around the website, you'll also find blog posts, downloads, and community offerings to support your career development. I'm your host, Crystal Lee, and I'm always interested in hearing what topics you'd like to learn about. You can connect with me on Instagram at relocal.ca, or you can email me at crystal@relocal.ca. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to all the guests and supporters who make this podcast possible. This includes my podcast manager, Lindsay Curtis, and graphic designer, Alex Dewar, who created the podcast art. Thanks again for listening and sticking around. I hope you're more inspired and ready to make the moves that are right for you. See you at the next Hangout.